Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the emperor of Jing and takes revenge on Konoha? Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Land of Waves current time Wave Daimyo's palace. I see and you're positive this will be good for the country. Asked a daimyo of Wave country its second daimyo in the last 5 years, since the people of Wave rose up to depose not just Geto, but the rule of the previous daimyo, who was being bribed by said man with an insane amount of money. But said money did him little good when out of seemingly nowhere, the people of Wave then went to the capital at his palace and deposed him. At first demanding he meet them for an audience, but when he refused not even his guards could stop the people from breaking through and capturing the man, who was promptly beat on by the more angrier members of the mob who lost family members to Geto and could not stand the fact that the daimyo had allowed it. Afterwards, needless to say, the previous Wave daimyo did not survive and a relative of one of the old daimyos was requested via letter to the court of Land of Honey, where the last surviving member of said Wave daimyo put into power as the new daimyo, being a noble raised not spring country and having been taught about his great-great-grandfather through his mother's stories. The young man in his mid-20s took up the role with a vigor and fair hand. And the people of Wave country loved him for it, as he was nothing like their previous daimyo, but was a man who made sure they had guards and samurai to protect them from outside threats, such as the bandit gangs and pirates that tried to prey on said traders. Izuna, hearing his lord's question, bowed, then said to him, "Yes, Naruto Uzumaki is the same one, the hero of Wave who gave our people the spirit to fight and liberate our country of Wave from Geto. He didn't have to encourage us or help us past making sure I finished the bridge, but he did so much more than just that and helped to reignite our souls and break the oppression. Naruto is kind and noble young man. He's a bit brash and a hothead, but his heart's in the right place, and if he says this agreement will help us both flourish and gave his word, he meant it." Hearing this, the young man put his hand to his goatee, which was a dark shade of purple much like his hair. His silver pupil eyes seemed deep in contemplation for a minute before he smiled. "Very well, Tizuna-san, I will trust in this young hero who the people have their faith in, but I wish to meet with him myself daimyo to daimyo and see how he is with my own eyes." Hearing this, Tizuna was overjoyed and quickly nodded. "Yes, my lord Kanju, it shouldn't be a problem. I'm sure you could send word of you wanting to visit and you will be cleared quickly." Clapping his hands once, the Wave daimyo said, "Excellent, then I will send a courier immediately, as well as arrange for some merchants to be sent ahead to trade with my blessing. This will be a momentous change for our nation and something I hope will bring all great prosperity." The man said with a smile, and Tizuna nodded, bowing deeply for his lord before being let go with his permission. The daimyo still had his smile as the man left and kept it as he thought of what this might mean for him before sighing, his smile leaving as he thought, "However, I wish I did not have to leave Tana like this. I should go check on her and I should inquire if one of the ninjas with this Naruto has medical training. Maybe one of them can help heal me sister." He thought as he got up and left the room, his guards who stood at the nearby walls following him, walking by his side as he did so. "Anahagakure Dangoya." Sighing as he went into the building, Iruka Yamino went up to the counter where the chef, a grizzled man with a hard face and scar over his left eyes, looked at him, the man's grey hair flaring slightly in frustration. Iruka steadied himself for the muscular chef and said, "I'm here to meet with the Saisu party." Grunting, the man pointed to the side at the end of the benches where a darkened section lit by candles was. "Back there, fourth booth on the right, don't forget to close the door when you go in." Nodding, Iruka sighed as he made his way further into the restaurant, saying hi to several people he knew that were eating there. As he made his way through the back into the dark candle-lit portion, he went down and followed the bar keep's instructions and knocked and waited for his friend to say, "Come on in, we're waiting." Doing just that, Iruka looked at the assembled parties, a bit shocked to see a large number of chunin, as well as 2 Tokunetsu jonin. He heard a sigh and looked at his friend who had a scroll in front of him, Saisu Kamano, who looked up with a smirk. "Nice to see you could join us, Iruka-san. I was wondering if you'd make it with how late you were running." Bowing slightly, the older man had a slight blush of embarrassment as he said, "I'm sorry, but I had some difficulties. Some of the children's parents forgot today was a short day and I had to take each student home individually." Hearing this, Saisu shook his head as one of the other ninja Izumo sighed, saying, "People really are being overwhelmed with the way things are going now, aren't they?" Sighing, Saisu said nothing, but Anko Mitarashi snorted, saying, "What did you expect? I mean, we're getting forced into a war and it's all that damned cripple's fault. He just couldn't sit back and let the villages work together. No, he wants to go and try and cause us all trouble. I mean, what the heck was he thinking?" Said the irate special jonin and her fellow special jonin Tessin to Geto, the tattooed jonin, saying, "He was thinking that if he struck them first he could probably devastate their villages at the same time and pin it on Akatsuki, no doubt, but his plan backfired." Said the man simply, his arms crossed in annoyance at this. "And on top of that, they're going to throw us to the wolves. Tell them what you know, Izumo-san." Eyeing the Chunin level, Ninja said, his partner seemingly annoyed as he adjusted his body on the long bench which was holding less than its maximum of 12 people. I heard the Hokage arguing with the ninja council over a new tactical plan. She was saying it was unethical. Well, the council headed by the same man who caused this, Danzo, and the ninja elders believe a preemptive strike is in order. One which involves sending huge numbers of Chunin led by Jonin and special Jonin. Hearing this, Iruka said. But that sounds like a routine military action. I mean, wait, something's wrong, what's the catch? The school teacher's question had a profound effect, and the ninjas shifted uncomfortably, and seeing this, Tsubaki, a Chunin and the traitor Mizuki's former lover, said quickly in frustration. They're sending them out against Jonin groups, each possessing at least 10 Jonin, and the main 2 battle groups we're targeting, each of them have Jinchuriki in them. Stones has the 4 tails, while Cloud has the 8 tails. Hearing this, Iruka paled drastically as he realized what his friends were saying, and he said. You must be joking. An assault like that will only cause the Leaf massive casualties. Why would they even contemplate something like this? At hearing this, the ninjas in the know winced, while Anko, equally as frustrated, Tsubaki said. That's because they plan on having several of us wear special flak jackets. These ones will be on the most powerful ninja. The ones most likely to get close, while everyone else will be wearing explosive tag vests. But the ones with the special non-explosive tag vests are going to have dead switch rigged Fuinjutsu, the kind designed to create seal that will capture the entire area for up to a half mile in it and seal it all within the massive bodies. Hearing this, Iruka was pale. It was cruel, it was cold and extremely calculated, and would prove to be a devastating loss in lives for the Chunin of the village. Why would they put a plan like this forward? Hearing this, Anko sighed, then said. Because they've got several replacements lined up. They have twice the number of current Chunin out of last year's graduating batch. Remember, 47 new ninja ready to recoup their losses, and the group after that will have up to 70 ninja attending. Hearing this, Iruka turned red and yelled. Array, oh, you insinuating they would just promote children that I would prompto children who aren't ready? Sighing, Tsubaki said. Iruka-san, I know about you because of Mizuki, and I have to be honest, I know that you wouldn't. You're a good man, one who would no doubt fight such a decision, but not all the teachers would be willing to risk their jobs and would probably follow such orders. The woman said with a calm, level tone, but the words were cold, calculated, and no doubt what those pushing for the plan thought about it themselves, which children the educators would be more likely to throw the dogs. Iruka felt sick to his stomach as he thought about what the woman said and quickly spoke. Is there anything we can do? If the Hokage has lost the votes and a council meeting, then what can we do? Where can we go? We can't stay here. I can't in good conscience teach kids only for them to be promoted quickly and thrown into the line of battle or used as cannon fodder on the field of battle. Said the man honestly, and at this Saisu said. We can go where my relatives are heading to. They invited me and anyone else who wants to come to the nation of Jing, a state whose placement is to the northeast away from the elemental nations and one where most ninja villages never have any contact. Hearing this, Iruka seemed shocked at what they said, and Anko voiced the group's thoughts. So you called us here to talk to us about leaving the village behind, huh? And just how do we know we can trust you, having gone to the academy? Aside, we don't exactly know each other all that well. Said the snake mistress, to which the gray-haired ninja sighed, saying. Yeah, but you're one of the Leaf's top interrogators. You should know right now if I'm lying or not, and considering the fact that I'm not wrapped up in snakes, I'd like to think you know I'm telling the truth. Sighing and cursing, the woman nodded, and then Tsubaki spoke with Tesei, quickly agreeing with her as she said. We need to see if there is anyone else we can save. Iruka, inquire about the students' parents and if possible if they can be trusted, inform them, but if they try to blow the whistle, use Genjutsu to make it appear that they were overworked and falling asleep. Okay. Sighing, Iruka looked at his fellow ninjas and said with a nod. Alright, I can tell none of us are comfortable with this and there will be second thoughts, but I want to say now I'm doing this for my students and because this village is not a place I can call home if they're willing to throw young lives away into the crucible of war. Just like Stone and Cloud, the Leaf may have assigned teams more difficult missions than Genin would be used to, but at least they were well trained and had Jonin senseis. This is just throwing them at a mountain with explosives tied to them in the hopes to open a path for the rest of the greatly diminished force to take down their foe with. Said Iruka, and Tesai added on. You're a good man, Iruka, you have been ever since we went to the academy, but this is some dangerous stuff. Be careful when you go do such things, and I think I should say that goes double for everyone else here as well. One slip and we're gone. And with the Hokage losing her official powers bit by bit, the elders and Danzo are working to circumvent her by bringing the clan heads on their sides due to fear and anxieties the previous ninja wars have instilled in them. But I think it goes further than that. For the clan heads and the elders to approve means they are changing the Leaf's very military doctrine to match that of our enemies and becoming ruthless. I think they're losing the very spirit our village was founded on. Hearing this, Anko said. Amen to that. I doubt the civilians and more gullible ninja will think any different about it. I mean, just look what happened when I came back from that long training trip with Orochimaru and found out I was on it with a shadow clone and the real Orochimaru had left days ago. Said the girl and her fellow former academy students Kotetsu, Izumo, Iruka Tensai and the nondescript female Chunin on the end winced as they thought on it and knew she was right, as all sorts of rumors had flown about her and were believed almost as a divine truth by the populace less intelligent people. Really reminds you of Naruto, doesn't it, Neji? Said Kiba in a whisper, his head covered by his hood and a black jacket, while Neji Hyuga next to him, side form underneath his own scarf and jacket hood. Yes it is, but we are both at team training, we cannot be seen as being different. I am merely grateful Naruto taught us the shadow clone jutsu. Said the Hyuga, and Kiba groaned. Yeah, but it really was a bitch to learn. I mean, him tricking us, tying us up and then having his clone-s throw blunt practice kunai at us up until we got it with our fingers tied so we could only make the shadow clone seal. The dog user said with a snicker while Neji sighed, his hand briefly touching his forehead, which made Saisu look over at him and say, "Hey kid, I got something that might help with that rash on your forehead here, catch, apply it when you get home and the thing should burn right off." Hearing this, Neji was shocked as he was tossed a bundle of pre-lubed medical salve band-aids and was about to reply to Saisu when he noticed several different forms of writing, which instantly made the young man's eyes widen as he said, "Thank you, I'll use it later on when I get home." Said the young man, and the ninja nodded and said nothing as Tsubaki said, "We need to agree on a meeting place. I propose we leave at 2:35 a.m. within a week's time in groups no bigger than 4 from separate points around the village's rim away from the gates. Then we head to the Land of Tea after fleeing the Land of Fire and make our way to Jing. Any objections or suggestions?" She asked, and no one had anything to say. With that, Saisu dismissed the meeting, the ninja slowly dispersing from the location. All the while, most of the 12 ninja thought on what they would do and who they would bring into the know. In a situation more delicate than the younger ninja have been in before, yet no less serious, as they're fleeing from near certain death in the face of insurmountable odds. Their village knew they would die in and for no cause other than to harm their foes and in no way save their village from the full scope of the threats around it. Root HQ. The headquarters of Ruder Danzo's domain was a place few outsiders ever saw, and even few would know long about while staying alive. It was a place of darkness, a deep dank complex made seemingly in the style of the village above, but with panels, walls and many scaffoldings that confused anyone who would try to break in and try to get out. The design purposefully put in place by the master of this domain and the one currently staring at his 2 former teammates who appeared escorted by some of his root ninja. Amura and Kaheru, what a surprise. To what do I owe the honor of a visit to my family estates? Asked the old ninja, his eye still as sharp as the day both of his ex-teammates remembered it when they first went out in the field together. Pushing up his glasses, Hamura answered, first quelling Danzo's curiosity for now. "We came to discuss the matter of the Jinchuriki, or to be more specific, the whereabouts of Naruto Uzumaki." Hearing this, the man scowled deep, and then catching on it, Kaheru said, "Oh, so you do not know where he is, do you, Danzo? That is disappointing. I had hoped you would have gotten to him by now." Showing barely any emotion, the leader of Root said to his former teammate, "It matters not, Kaheru, the blonde can only hide for so long. My spy network is on the lookout, a person on the routes to every one of the places he's been on, mission of great importance. If he comes anywhere near them through those roads, he would be spotted and reported to me." Said the man simply, and both his colleagues nodded. However, Hamura said, "Do not use the emotional intensive training, Danzo. I wish to speak with him in regards to certain matters relating to his heritage." Hearing this, the warhawk raised an eyebrow. "And what would said heritage be?" Sighing, the man said, "From his father's side he was a Jonin. You know, the man was created for someone of his strength level, and though he was not the most well known in the ninja world at the time, his son may be able to access the contents of the vault he has at the bank, one protected by voluntary blood-based sealing jutsu." Hearing this, Danzo nodded, though Kaheru seemed unnerved. Such high-level Fuinjutsu. Who was his father? The Kari Tendo, a high B near low-ranking ninja of the Leaf. You can look him up in the archives yourself. He was someone who occasionally spared and fought with the 4th Hokage on ninja mission, so it's not surprising he picked P some skill in sealing jutsu. But that P, said the man, heard his fellow ninja advisor say, "If he is such a man's son, then if he were to retrieve the vault contents, it could help our efforts against Stone and Cloud immensely, as their sealing jutsu skills in the art of Yuinjutsu are lower than our own already. It may make our plan Akatorappu red trap unnecessary for us to take out Stone and Cloud's Jinchuriki and level the playing field to prevent them from attacking the village." At this, Danzo took his cane and brought it down once and gripped it tightly. "Kaheru, that plan is of the most crucial timetable, and while it would be nice if we could have access to Naruto Uzumaki, we do not. I know you are uncomfortable, but your own granddaughter will not be sent into the fray, Kaheru. Not only that, but your grandson will not be sent in either." Hamura This you have my word on, however I expect both of you to give me your complete cooperation in the implementing of my plan in exchange for this and keeping your secrets involving the Jinchuriki's early life and the loss of some of Tsunade's executive powers a secret. Hearing this both of the other ninja scowled and Koharu said. And you have both, but I would have thought you would have approved rather than condemned our plan and its workings. Hearing this the man nodded saying. Yes, if it was implemented better, but you did this when Jiraiya was in the village. Not only that, but just after Hiruzen died you slipped those clauses in. We may not have been as lucky then, and she was definitely suspicious of it then, but she was extremely suspicious the second time you've done it, and of all times right after her meeting with the fire daimyo when you know she would ordinarily get drunk. Slipping the papers in with benign documents or within some long civilian document would have been a much more efficient way to acquire her stamp seal, rather than having an Anbu steal it and approve the clauses to strip her of some of her powers before sending it off under Genjutsu to the fire daimyo, as Hiruzen's dying request suddenly found. Said the man, thinking back to when his spy had reported the chakra signatures of his teammates on the paper, and the man cursed, being grateful that the slow recruitment of the new Guardian 12 meant that the daimyo had no ninja that could see into the fake letter and reveal it to the man. However, seeing the hawk of a teammate of his paused in his thoughts, Homura took the spot to speak. We did what we thought was best. Tsunade's policies have begun to bleed the village dry, and her plan to send our Jinchuriki to the blood prison has backfired spectacularly. He's had enough for whatever reason and has ran and gone to the winds, and now that we are nearing a war when we need him most, he's gone. And so this is why we took what powers we could from Tsunade. She clearly was not ready to handle the situation, and the way she ignores our advice is especially horrendous. Or have you forgotten the trouble with those bandits who killed so many of our ninja forces and nearly unleashed a pseudo Jinchuriki on us? Asked Homura, and the Warhawk sighed, trying to rein in the headache he was getting from dealing with his former teammates. But he had to admit it was a lost opportunity to get a hold of a powerful weapon. In his opinion, the Leaf Village should have taken the boy when they had the chance and trained him until he was the Jinchuriki they wanted, as he was clearly stronger than their own when they fought. Be that as it may, my sources tell me that Kumagakure as well as Iwagakure have sped up their advance. Hearing this, both of the other ninja elders were shocked. What, when, why? Sighing, the ninja elder and oldest member of the trio said to them. Because it would seem the Akatsuki have once again disappeared, one of them critically injured and another nearly decapitated while missing an arm. They were fought by both the 8 and 2-tailed Jinchuriki, while the other member was brutally injured by both of Stone's Jinchuriki. Neither groups had expected it to happen. And it would appear the news I had received of them capturing and sealing the 5 tails was false. They captured a clone with a hefty amount of the 5 tails chakra. Hearing this shocked the councillors, however, much to Danzo's annoyance, his fellow councillors showed fear at the news. He sighed and said. Iraikage and Tsuchikage worked together. Each set of Jinchuriki had at least 30 jonin, meaning somehow one of them gained information on the Akatsuki's plan. Hearing this shocked the councillors further, with Koharu saying tensely. It only shows why your plan is truly needed. I might not like it, but the need for it, which is even greater than before, especially if we can force both villages into a ceasefire with such a plan. Hearing this, Danzo watched as Homura pushed his glasses, a habit he knew from years of experience while on a mission with a man, meant he had made a final decision on the matter. Said ninja elder spoke to his friend in a business tone, immediately finalizing the open talks. I agree with you, Operation Red Trap must be put forward, but I would like to request some of your unmarked Anbu be a part of it. Hearing this, Danzo raised an eyebrow at that and said. Very well, Homura, I will acquiesce to your desires on that note and have some Anbu prepared on the sidelines, just in case, to ensure the mission's success. In the meantime, I require you all to keep Tsunade's support off balance. Voice your doubts, give your opinions. You have helped to sway the clan heads, especially when mentioning Tsunade's mistakes with our Jinchuriki. With any luck we will keep the council power base to move things into our favor and fractured enough from Tsunade so that she cannot counter us with legislation. Nodding, Homura asked. But what about our Anbu? We had to switch with some of our body doubles we hired for this sort of thing in order to make it here without our minders. Hearing this, the old Warhawk gave the two a smirk and said to them. Do not worry, Tsunade is going to be quite busy, especially when one of my agents leaks Stone and Cloud's advance through nearby smaller nations to her own spy network, which has been countered by both villages' own networks. This will enable us, with the council's blessing, to assemble and send out the ninja to counter Kumagakure and Iwagakure's Jinchuriki and eliminate their most critical advantages in the war. Nodding, the two elders soon departed and Danzo turned around and walked back to his office, the faint moonlight of the moon passing as he slipped back into the darkness he was so familiar with as his plans unfolded, changing the ninja world in ways even he could not predict. And they're coming around the corner. Naruto in first. No, I think he's in second, Raizetsu. Scowling at the mist ninja besides her, she said. There's no way Naruto will lose. I-Date is just going have to admit Naruto is faster. Smirking at this, Numashura said, "My, aren't you a supportive girlfriend? That's good. So what kind of special reward are you going to give him if he wins?" Hearing this, Raizetsu blushed, then scowled and huffed, saying, "That's none of your business, it's between me and Naruto." Grinning, the Mist Ninja said, "And the sheets on top of you both got it. Oh look, they cleared the obstacle wall and are in the final stretch." Looking up at the pre-made obstacle course, Raizetsu couldn't help but be amazed at how fast the two were clearing it without chakra. The course had started out with a mud trap, then opened P into several spinning training dummies, then moved on to the various thin triangle board to walk across the thin tops on like a circus. The two made their way onto open land, and the race had truly begun. They had begun a long lop winding from by the port's docks all the way to the other side of the docks, by the divers' dressing area for the pearl divers to suit up before they went on the ships to sea for their dives. However, all of that had been quickly passed through by the two runners, and it was clear to see why. Even though both young men were not using chakra, it was the drive to win pushing them. And to the onlookers it seemed incredibly redundant to a large number of people as the two tore the ground, jetting one ahead of the other, both men looking at each other, then breaking their gazes as they fiercely tore up the ground. Soon the men both caught sight of the line, and their sprints increased. However, as they two-man sprinted, their arms up and backs arching, it was clear who had won the race. I-Date had arched downward in his run to finish by limiting his mass, while Naruto had quickly switched to long strides, with his back arched and his head further behind. As the blonde's body hit the thin layer silk sash, it was clear as he passed barely first who had won the race. Cheers erupted widely at this, as both fans and bets went about what they thought was best in regards to the winner being found. Seeing this, Raizetsu held out her hand. The Nushihira cursed, taking out some of the new currency, the first batch of it coming out in the form of the Shen, a form of currency thought up by one of the Iwagakure ninja, and thanks to a group of their best financial experts and Raizetsu, they managed to form a bill-based system. Of reason for this being that when the group first got there were several disputes with this being noticed. The easiest way to solve the problem, since none of them had Raya, was to create their own currency. It was bills much like their old homelands. However, the bills picture was a picture of a port of ships on the left half like a yin-yang symbol, while the white had an elegant pearl with fine details of the middle and an almost swirling pattern. Needless to say, it had been taken up in replace of the Ryo, the nearby trees of the forest being beaten to pulp, and several groups of ninjas, how had been tested for honesty and their expertise by the Akagi clan, had formed a new trade guild, the Silver Oyster Guild, which had begun to talk of possibly making trading houses for them to send their people's merchant and other goods through to other nations back in the east. Needless to say, the Akagi were very interested and had spent hours negotiating with the Silver Oyster Guild and Raizetsu, who was the referee on such matters, before reaching an agreement. Now drenched with sweat hanging off of his head, Naruto wiped his brow and said, "Damn, I-Date, you haven't lost a step. I knew I was right to save as much of my stamina as I could. Damn, so that's why I caught that early lead before you forced you way up. Smart, Naruto, very smart. It's won you this race, Naruto. You've done well too, I-Date. Damn, I didn't expect you to come at me with this much ferocity. I expected you to joke around a bit more, but you've still got your eye on the prize just as much as you did when you won the shrine race." Nushihira, still made about the loss of his money, said, "Well, Chief, thanks for helping me say goodbye to my money. Couldn't you have just slowed down a bit?" he asked, and at this Naruto said with a smirk, "Never, I'm a man of my word, and I swore I'd give I-Date a race to remember. The fact that I won is going to burn in his head for quite a while, isn't it?" he asked the man, who said, "Yeah, laugh it up. Next time I'm leaving you in the dust. You got me, Uzumaki." Laughing, the man said to him, "Well, it looks like I'll have to train more to keep that form happening, so you enjoy the race, Raizetsu." Blushing as she looked at his chest, which was bare and exposed to the elements, with him just wearing his ninja pants and his ninja shoes. The young man's girlfriend said, Yes, I did. I think Sasam enjoyed it too. Why don't you go talk to her? I've got a meeting to get to now with the Wave Daimyo's aide, who has made it here to get some figures before returning to Wave." Nodding, the blonde got a quick kiss from the girl, who disappeared in a puff of smoke, making the Wasabi heir raise an eyebrow and say, "Really? She doesn't seem the type to be cool with Sai ordinarily. What gives?" Sighing, the blonde Uzumaki said to the man, "Well, if you were the heir to two nearly extinct clans that have nearly died out several times and were attempting to rebuild said clan, would you want to give life to it yourself and have a husband who is a daimyo and has duties he needs to fulfill, as well as meet with dignitaries and make sure the country is run well by yourself? Or with women your own age who can help you even at the late hours where maids and servants don't work?" Hearing this, the Wasabi heir replied, "You know, that makes more sense, but I did mean that she would be alright with going to your meetings while you hang out, you know." Face palming inside his mind, the blonde sighed, then said to him, "Sorry, but with the way things have been lately I've been a bit on edge." Smirking, the heir said, "I understand, so get off of it. I've got a room at the inn, you know where to find me later for some serious talks about the way things have been." said the young man extending his hand to the blonde and the blonde shoe kid and said. I'd be glad to have a drink with you Idate, I'll see you later. Nodding, the blonde parted ways with Idate and made his way over to Sasam, who smiled at the blonde and said. That was a great race Naruto, you made my cousin very happy today. Smirking at that, the blonde said. I know I did, I told him the race was coming up and he said he knew better than to go against a pupil of the late great Jiraiya. Hearing this, the Uzumaki laughed before sighing. Oh, if he only knew how much of a pupil of his I really was. Hearing this, Asam frowned briefly before smirking and quickly moved to the blonde with speed. He didn't expect kissing him full on. The blonde's eyes went wide as he felt the Fuma girl navigate his mouth like an expert before pulling back and saying. I bet he didn't have two women who loved him enough to want to share him at the same time in a relationship. Blushing, the blonde said to her. True, Sasam-chan, are you sure about this? Smirking, she said to him. Did my kiss seem like I wasn't? I've thought on this and talked to several of my clansmen, the last being my older cousin, and we all agree it is doable. Besides, this way some of our children can be members of the Fuma clan and help us boost our numbers. Well, several members have married and we adopted some orphans into the clan. It still isn't near the numbers we had before the Third Ninja World War, so any children we would have would be welcomed into the clan and they would help care for them. She said simply while the blonde sighed, and he said. That I know I've begun to really like Raizetsu-chan and I can see myself making a life with her, but I also know that I feel something for you Sesame-chan. And I just want you to know I don't just want to date you to revive my clan, but I want to find out who you are and to learn more about you and to get to know the real you, the woman I haven't gotten the chance to know and would be a much better man if I had back then when we first met. Said the blonde, making the Fuma girl blush and kiss him harder. Then before a kiss he returned before body flickering the two away where they reappeared in a restaurant. So you want to go on our first date now? Asked a girl with a smile which increased as the blonde nodded. Definitely, I'd like to start now if we can. Smiling, the girl nodded and a waitress came up to them and led them to a table in the Dancing Dragon's main dining area where several couples sat as well other groups enjoying themselves in the atmosphere. Both Naruto and Sasam began to talk animatedly and enjoy the company of each other, much to the pleasure of the staff, one girl saying. So he really is going to marry more than one woman. Hearing this, the woman next to her began to laugh a little while the guy with a bandana and combed back hair said. Why? I mean, I thought him and Raizetsu-san were a thing. Sighing, the second girl with light brown hair said. Yes, but he's the last of his clan. Do you know how difficult it would be to bring back on their own? I mean, you do know how hard it is the first time for some women, don't you? Or do you think childbirth is a breeze? Asked the second. The man groaned and resigned, saying. Alright. I can see where you're coming from, it's just a bit strange is all, but I'm not complaining. The guy got us men out of the blood prison and made it so our relatives, mothers, sisters, brothers, lovers and cousins could make it here together. I'm sure not going to stare or judge the man after getting us out and taking down that giant bastard Muku after the kid killed his father. Said the man with the woman nodding in approval as they watched the date go on with few others commenting or looking at the blonde. As much like other villages, word tended to trickle down, however, unlike some minimal details were revealed at this city. One difference of many that would be noted by several people doing various research in the future to come. Land of Rivers current time. That'll be 2700 Ryo for the ride, mister. Here you go and keep the change. Said an old man with a long white beard. The couchman's eyes bugged out and he said. If you got anywhere else you want to go, I'd be happy to take you. Hearing this, the white-haired man turned to look at the man, then said in an even tone, and he let loose a wave of killing intent at him. I'd much rather get where I'm going on my own, thank you. He said, the man's bushy white hair moving as he did wildly. The man made a single hand seal and disappear puff of smoke before reappearing several miles away coughing and letting out a small few specks of blood. Damn it, I'm not up to my full strength, I need to keep moving. That girl shouldn't have had to die for nothing. I will make it back Tsunade. Naruto, hold on, I'll be there soon, just have to do it. Focus, board dog bird, monkey ram sumong no jutsu. The man said as he bit his right thumb before slamming his hand into the trunk of a nearby trunk, creating a large puff of smoke as he did with a large Tolden armor falling, looking ready for a battle. Naruto Uzumaki, finally you've called us, do you? You're not Naruto, who are you? How can you summon one of us of the Toad clan? Speak before I get angry. Hearing this, the white-haired man chuckled and then laughed, confusing the Toad and angering him further. However, as the Toad looked at the ninja from the bottom up, he gasped and said. But you're dead, pain. At this, Jiraiya glared then sighed, looking extremely weary at the statement. Did not kill me, which I can say I am relieved for. If it weren't for my flashback to the fight with Hanzo from something Pa said, I wouldn't have been as careful. However, he mentioned how Nagato might overwhelm with both the terrain advantage Konan and the Rinnegan all at play. I listened to him, and despite just fighting Nagato, I used a jutsu of the third Hokage's to slip away, albeit with part of the injury I would have had I not survived. Hearing this, the toad was shocked but said. Jiraiya, if you have any orders for me, I can help. You don't seem well. Where have you been for the last 4 months? Trying to recover enough to make it back to the Leaf Village. Nagato beat me and he beat me good, but with the knowledge I possess, the Leaf should be able to survive whatever assault he's planning. Hearing this, Gamma grew quiet and Jiraiya looked at him in confusion before his eyes went wide with fear and he said. No. Oh Kami, no, he attacked the village, didn't he? What happened? How is Tsunade Haim? What's? Jiraiya, calm down. Tsunade-sama is safe, the village is safe. What happened is, to put it simply, Naruto beat him. Jiraiya, he trained NMT Mayaboku and managed to overcome Pain's Rinnegan. Hearing this shocked the older ninja immensely and he said. Naruto, how? His yell pierced the area with a volume of intensity and force the man didn't know he still had, and Gamma looked in satisfaction, his arms crossed as he smirked. It's definitely Jiraiya. I don't know how, but he's alive, though he clearly isn't as strong as he was before. However, he still wondered what he would have to tell Jiraiya, and sighing he leapt on the man who was in mid-rant and then reverse summoned himself to the one place he knew would shut him up. Damn it, of all the times they've invaded the land of mountains and are making their way here through it past the land of stones, and they're on their way to their border near Omegakure. Said Tsunade as the Beepus Hibiki Marino, leader of the T&I department, stood covered in blood on an apron which was over his usual uniform. The grim man then spoke once more to his Kage. Yes, that is not old Tsunade-sama, but it would appear that Tsuchikage has had envoys communicating with Cloud, who has already taken over some of their old bases from the Third Ninja World War. That have been clearing out the vagrants and bandits that had taken them over and began pushing on a rampant path towards us. They have bases established 20 miles from Shimagakure's border and just past Yugakure, the land of hot water. Hearing this, Tsunade's eyes winded and she said. Anbu, I need Shikaku Narayan here yesterday. Retrieve him now. Hi Hokage-sama. Said an Anbu that briefly appeared in the room before disappearing. The Hokage of the Leaf Village angrily growled as she pounded her fist in the desk, making the desk made from the wood of the own first Hokage splinter, where she hit it slightly. Shit, she is pissed, I can understand it, but to break the very wood made by the first Hokage, Lady Fifth, really is a monster in her own right. He thought while Tsunade was thinking. Damn it, we need to counter them immediately. Fuck, I wish we had any means of getting the knowledge of what they're doing, but all attempts to penetrate their advanced have failed. Kami, damn it, we need a miracle right now. What the fuck? Thought the Hokage as a burst of smoke came from up above near her office's ceiling and she caught sight of a toad from MT Maboku who landed gracefully on her desk while the figure, a man screaming a familiar scream she never thought she'd hear again, fell, his head hitting the side of the desk, making him cry out again with a yell she knew all too well. God damn it, Gamma. I wasn't ready for that. How could you just throw your master into the fire like that? Smirking, the toad said. Didn't you do the same with one of your own students? A loud-mouthed genin. Growling, Jiraiya stood up and said. I threw Naruto off that cliff so he could access the beast's chakra. The nine-tailed fox's selfish Mito noted that, and Hashirama commented further, saying it would take certain death for the fox to ever work with humans willingly. The Akatsuki were after Naruto. I didn't know how much time I had left, so I gave him a speed course on being a ninja. Shaking his head, the toad said. Only you would do such a thing, being willing to gamble with so much faith on your freshly acquired student. Jiraiya, you did what? Time, don't kill me, I'm sorry, far more than when I peeked at you all those years ago. He cried, and the woman paused from her verbal tirade. How Jiraiya, those hot springs closed down after the owner died. They were the only ones who knew I had Inochi Yamanka's father block the memories from your mind, so if you ever went into a drunken state, you would never say how could this be, are you really alive? The Kage asked with trepidation, and the man rose, a grin on his face, as he began to sway his head around in a circle and thrust out his arm. Fear not, Tsunade-Haim. Nothing can claim the great Jiraiya's life so soon. Not when there are so many more women to see and works of art to write. Never will the great Jiraiya leaves his works unfinished so soon. For I am the talented writer, the great and gallant Jiraiya. Said the man, finishing his dance atop Gamma, who groaned and shook his head. Tsunade wanted to clobber the toad sage, while Hibiki still seemed to be in shock. However, both were pulled from their thoughts as Jiraiya began to hack and coughed, causing a splotch of blood to hit the ground, and instantly Tsunade was up to him, her hands glowing green with medical chakra as she did. Jiraiya. Grunting in pain, the toad sage opened his eyes after the wave of pain hit him and said. Sorry Haim, I haven't fully recovered. Nagato's black rods really hurt, even though only 2 of them impaled me. Impaled Jiraiya, that fight was months ago. The Akatsuki had declared war on the hidden villages since then. However, they've retreated to the shadows and both stone are moving towards our doorstep. Hearing sigh, the toad sage sighed and said. I know I sent some shadow clones to re-establish my spy network however, luckily enough one of my informants managed to keep the ring together, he knew a lot about what I was doing and who was involved, so he was able to keep them all together. I really need to thank my editor for that when I get able to face. But in the meantime Tsunade, I need to know what happened more importantly, where's Naruto? I'm so proud of him, he surpassed me Tsunade Haim, he's truly surpassed me. The man said with chuckle and a wince which soon began to fade however at the look of shock and then trepidation the Toad Sage was not just curious but worried. Tsunade, why do you have that look on your face? It's the same one that was on your face when Dan and Nawaki died, Swand. Hearing this Ibiki said nothing but slowly moved closer to the two, fearing what the Toad Sage might do, and Tsunade sighed before saying. I sent him on a mission without telling him Jiraiya and I think I need to tell you the full details of it now before we say anything else. Hearing this the Toad Sage sighed but nodded saying. And so tell me what mission is the brat on now, an A rank to Earth country or B rank gathering allies to help us fight Tsunade, which is it? Sighing the woman said to him. Neither but before I say this I need you to promise me you will help the Leaf and work with Ibiki and the others, commanding our responses regardless. Hearing this shocked the man and he was about to reply with a joke, but his teammate's face instead garnered a sigh and a nod. Yes Haim, you have my word. Good, but before I tell you this you have to promise to tell me how you survived. Do you have any idea what you put me through when I thought you were dead? The Senju for a Hokage said, and at this she got sighing from the Toad Sage as he said. Well, it was a jutsu developed by sensei, sort of an advanced body flicker, but one that leaves a clone in place, a special clone that, well, it's close to Kenjutsu, but it takes an enemy ninja's dead body and makes it into a hinged form that looks and acts like you, due to you also making a shadow clone and having it use a combination transformation filled with enough chakra to take a single solid blow. This enabled me to escape from Nagato, who was so focused at that time with all of his paths, looking at my impaled body, that he didn't see or sense me leave via a very chakra minimal body flicker. You pulled an Orochimaru. Wincing at what he heard the man could only sigh and say. I used a jutsu sensei had passed down from the second Hokage, your grand uncle Tsunade, please don't be angry, I know you believe life after death should be sacred, but I had little choice. Besides I paid a price for my actions. Look Tsunade Haim, look at my stomach and chest. The man said and she opened his shirt which was missing the red vest he so commonly worn. It was covered in dirt and some grime. The Hokage however ripped it open and was shocked to see 2 holes. Jiraiya, how did this happen? One of these wounds is infected. Jiraiya winced and chuckled before wincing in pain as the woman quickly set her hands on these parts of the man and he said. Sorry Tsunade Haim, the jutsu transfers part of the damage to the wielder, whatever would be non-lethal. After the shadow clone is dispersed the hinge sticks to the body via a seal the user places on the corpse. However, I took part of the damage from the shadow clone jutsu. Ordinarily it wouldn't be fatal however. I managed to get Gamariki, who can sync fairly well with Ma the Toad Elder Shira, and while not as powerful as her and her husband's jutsu, I also managed to get Fukashika-sama to make one of his own Genjutsu to layer on top of it. The experience created form. It was real Tsunade, very real. It was on the same level as the Kurama clan's Kekai Genkai sensei was no slouch, neither was your uncle Tabarama. When it came to Genjutsu however, I had to get 3 toads skilled in gain jutsu to add up to it, as I have no talent for the art myself. Hearing this the Senju was shocked, completely shocked from her grand uncle making such a jutsu to her own sensei, having learned it and passed it down to Jiraiya. However, she could only say. I'm glad for it Jiraiya, but what took you so long to come home? She asked and the man sighed saying. I was in a coma, the shock form the jutsu nearly knocked me out after I body flickered. I had to move, I managed to make it past the border before passing out. I ended up in village being taken care of by a young girl and her grandmother. It lasted a while, apparently all the way up until some rain ninja attacked the village. I was in one of the houses when they came, they saw me as a helpless old man tried to strike me down. However, you know me Tsunade Haim, I'm never one to stay down long, like how when Orochimaru tried to prank me back for taking his clothes and replacing them with a waitress outfit. I jumped up and kicked him across the field when I was exhausted. I was more than strong enough to fight back against a few genin and a chunin. Waking up through my sixth sense and knocking the letter out, I beat the ninjas back away from the village, though I had to kill them Tsunade. I couldn't have Nagato learn about me being alive that soon. I was only one country over at the border between Rain and Fang country. The people were very grateful and gave me enough supplies to make it back, and I had decided to get away quick, paying a carriage in a nearby town to get moving. I was tired, hungry, and I didn't have my full strength. I waited, moving slowly till I got closer to Fire Country, where I summoned Gamma, and here I am. Now what has happened with Naruto? Tell me he didn't do something stupid this time or foolhardy to cause an incident, though he wouldn't be my apprentice and following in my footsteps if he didn't. said the man as he let out a hearty laugh, this time without pain or blood. However, at this, Tsunade sighed, then said to her teammate. No, but I definitely did. I shouldn't have done it, but with the massive pressure from Stone and Cloud as well as the council, I did what I thought was best. Hearing this from his teammate, Jiraiya said. And that was? Banished Naruto from the village because the Raikage, his brother and several Cloud ninja, met him and several other ninja at a neutral location and proclaimed Naruto to be the killer of several of his ninja. It didn't help that the Tsuchikage was there with several of his ninja. I managed to convince them to let us come back to the village, and I had Naruto take a few hours break before having the council meetings and having him come to my office with his teammates in it. Hearing this, Tsunade looked P and saw Jiraiya's face go blank. It held no emotion, the only indication he was alive was his breath and the trembling he did. And then without warning he let out a scream that breached the building's confines as he yelled, his chakra flaring, and a burst of anger-induced chakra flared outwards, making several of the Anbu come out with their swords and Ibiki quickly pull out a kunai as he yelled. You did what? Tsunade sighed as she knew this was going to make her dip into her extra secret stash of gift sake she had hidden in a scroll away from Shizune. In hindsight, I doubt I could have expected this, but I have to say I am glad, all things considered. Thought the leader of Kashiro village to himself as he walked the streets of his home village. The town seemed to be in good spirits again. The fear of the bandits invading with their strength lent to their ally had dissipated immensely with the arrival of their new one, the people of Jing. Which made the man sigh as he wondered just how it would work out for him in the regards of things to come. If you keep thinking so hard, the gears in your head will burst and fragment into your skull. Sighing, the man said to his longtime friend. Masa, it's good to see you again. So have you come to recount the past or discuss the present? Asked the man, and his old friend snorted. Node requested me and my nephew head to Jing. He wishes to see this place that we've allied with and if possible see if there is anything he wishes to learn, as the school here only goes so far as to teach the basics. He wishes to look at Jing for a possible way to have a profession rather than just be a farmer like the majority of people here. Hearing this, Jansei sighed and nodded, giving her his permission as he said. Very well, if you use anything noteworthy please tell me. Hearing this, the old woman responded with a smirk before leaving the room, making Jansei sigh. I really need to have one of the people on the boat be one of my own men. I need to know the truth about our allies. I have a feeling there is much more than I would ordinarily suspect going on there. He said to himself, getting a messenger to call the captain of the guards with a new mission to give. Konahagakure. Knock knock. Coming. There you are, your Kagumi's teacher Iruka-sen, correct? Yes I am, may I come in, Miss Yano? Pulling back on the door, the thin woman with her hair tied in a bun said. Of course, come on in, I just finished a batch of tea for your visit, Kagumi said. You wanted to meet me to tell me about something of importance for her classes. Nodding, the Chunin teacher was led into the modest home which had a great amount of care and effort put into it and sighed at what he was going to have to say as she talked. So how is my Kagumi doing in your class, and what seems to be the problem you called me about? Sighing, the man pondered his options and quickly decided on his course of action and said. Mr. Yukine, there is no easy way to say this, however I believe you, like all parents, have a right to know. I have begun to inform a few parents of this. You're the fourth house I've been to so far, so I ask you to remain calm and do not take any drastic action for at least 3 more days, alright? Can I have your word for you to do this? Asked the man, and it shocked the mother of said student. However, she sighed and said. It must be very bad, and it doesn't have much to do with my daughter's performance, does it? She asked, and the man shook her head. She sighed and muttered. My father was a ninja. He had a similar look on his face when he had to tell us something unpleasant like him going on a longer term mission. Very well, you have my word, Marino-san, or would you prefer I call you Iruka? Iruka please, and I'm sorry Mrs. Yukine, but in all honesty, I think you should know your daughter is one of the finest up and coming ninja we have, especially considering only your father was a ninja and she started the academy late. However, I must tell you that the Konohagakure Council has decided on a plan not even veteran ninja can stomach and is reminiscent of the Third Ninja World War. Hearing this, the woman seemed confused and slightly terrified. You mean they're going to throw her in the front line? That's horrible. This is why you came to talk to me, to have her pulled out of being a ninja? Sighing, Iruka wrestled with his emotions before remembering what Saisu Kimono said to him and then said. No, however, I do not believe it is possible for her to be a ninja of the Leaf Village, especially when the higher-ups wish to throw out a large portion of their ninja forces into literal suicide vests designed to explode at our enemies. Hearing this, shock and horrified the woman, and Iruka hated to tell her it, as the woman no doubt thought of her daughter being made to run at said foes with an explosive tag vest on. What DDW we need to do to escape? Sighing, the man handed her a scroll and said to her. Show this to a ninja at the Forest of Death at 2:50 am, and you will be let in. There will be a means for us to smuggle all the civilians who come with us to the place where we will be traveling on a boat to another nation, one not embroiled in the war between us and Cloud and Stone. Thank you Iruka-san, thank you so much. My daughter is all I have left. Her father died in the Sand Sound invasion, the Sound ninjas killed him. She said, and Iruka felt his heart go out to the woman more, and he sighed and was completely shocked as she hugged him, hugging her back a bit awkwardly. The Chunin teacher could saw nothing as the Oddburn woman cried thankfully into his shoulder. He just knew it was going to be a very long day. Kusagakure current time. The hard edge was what could be described the best as the ninja before them looked at them with a smirk, and the blood of all the grass ninja let up with fury. The leader of them, a man with a small high-set nose, sharp eyes and a very thin frame, spoke his voice hard with an edge and his body, letting loose very controlled potent killing intent. What do you want, Stone Ninja? Smirking, the ninja in front of him was a ninja the man wanted to gut sincerely, but knew he would be hunted to the rest of his days if he did, and his superiors would be angry for it as well, making him a rogue ninja. The ninja in question who elicited such feelings merely shook his head. Still bitter about us staying for that little vacation back then, huh? I was just a chunin back then too. I remember fighting several of your jonin. Tell me, have they improved our village's training since then? Several ninjas stepped forward, their rage nearly overtaking their actions, but their leader raised a hand up, stopping them cold as his killing intent focused solely on the Stone Ninja, the only sign of him feeling it being the frown which now marred his face, which garnered no response from the Grass Ninja leader, save him talking. We do not want to be here, neither your group nor my own. Kitsuchi, son of the Tsuchikage, my superiors have given me terms to give to you. We know you're warring with a leaf again. Doing so despite having S-rank ninja your village hired turn on you and try to capture your Jinchuriki during a mission. We do not wish for unwanted aggression between our villages, so these terms should suffice for us to break our non-aggression pact with the leaf. He said simply, his bald head glistening slightly in the noonday sun as he moved his arm and tossed the scroll at the Stone Ninja, who caught it, then opened it, walking up briskly. As he did reading the terms given, he rolled it up, then looked the man in the eye and said, "So your village is kindly bending over again. Good, it makes things a lot easier for us. These terms will work just fine for my old man buddy. So nice to know we've got a nice mount to ride us to the Leaf Village's gates. Damn you Kitsuchi, one of these days you'll meet your match, and one be so lucky." The man said to him, and the son of the Tsuchikage took the scroll and put it in the pouch on the back of his belt. He then motioned to his ninja, who disappeared in a blue, dropping a scroll of his own, as he did which the Grass Ninja picked P and saw it was a non-aggression pact. Sighing, the Grass Ninja picked P, then turned to his men and said to them, "Come, we must take this back to the Grass Fruit Group immediately." "Taijokin-sama," said the Grass Chunin, the multiple scarf-wearing ninja, disappearing, and body flickers with their leader sighing and disappearing in a burst of flame as he disappeared. Current time, hospital. He hasn't said a word to anyone, he hasn't even looked at the nurse once, Lady Tsunade," said Shizune to her master and mother figure, who cursed under her breath. This is bad. Jiraiya's never hit this level of anger before, only after Orochimaru defected did he feel that bad. Shizune winced hearing this and sighed, looking at her mentor, and the woman groaned. "I know, Shizune, I know you were pissed, you're slap and ranting, or all I need to know that what I did was wrong, but the Raikage demanded Naruto pay for what he did, and he threatened war to do it at a time when Stone was all too happy to give it to them. Our country looked like we were going to go into a recession. The boats of several prominent trading houses went missing and threatened to bankrupt them and send the economy into flux." Shizune. Sighing, the woman could see her mentor didn't like the choice she made, but had made it and wouldn't let her guilt her about it. "I know you made a hard choice, Tsunade, but you chose Naruto over the village. Even he, being as forgiving as he is, would have hard time forgiving you, especially since you didn't explain the so-called mission, not capture the real assassin in the blood prison." Tsunade rubbed her forehead in frustration. She didn't want to admit it to no one, not Jiraiya or Shizune, but she had panicked the idea of all her grandfather and clan's efforts, what nearly all of them had fought for, and she had made her choice. Though that didn't mean she had to like it or have people bringing it up repeatedly. To her it was done and she wished she didn't do it, but that didn't mean she wanted to be judged by those closest to her so much about it, especially when she was the damn one with the Kage hat, making the tough harsh choices. "Monitor him, Shizune, I don't want him straining himself. "I will, Tsunade-sama, but you should see him, it would make him feel better even if he's angry at you. You shouldn't leave it like this between you two. Sighing, the woman headed into the room, then let out a cry. "Jiraiya, what the fuck do you think you're doing?" she said as the Toad Sage froze her, turned and sighed, saying, "Finding my apprentice and checking on my spy network, Tsunade. Have you lost or mind you had over 47 improperly healed injuries. I had to break some of the stuff Nagato wrecked and reset the bones. That corpse jutsu didn't just give you those 2 holes in your chest, you know. Jiraiya let out a dismissive snort and immediately regretted as she grabbed him, then flung him into the bed and shook him roughly repeatedly. Damn it Jiraiya, when will you ever act your age? This is serious, you need to rest. At this the man said. No Tsunade. This is more important, I failed Minato and Kushina once. I don't need to do it again, that brat needs my help, I failed to give it to him properly relying on sensei to make sure he was safe, but I can't do that now. No, he still needs training even if he beat Nagato, there's still the Akatsuki, I mean 7's rank missing ninjas is all to more than he can handle. 6 Deidara was believed to have died fighting someone, though we're unsure if he really died at that point in that forest, there was massive damage. Hearing this the man groaned and said. He needs my help. You let him go off on his own after that little stunt at the blood prison, I probably would have took off too, I mean for God's sake, how did you avoid having him wind up a missing ninja? Sighing she shook her head and said. Naruto helped save a relative of the fire daimyo Neho from being kidnapped, he fought extremely hard for her against a ninja who specialized in fighting and killing Kekkei Genkai-based ninja, and killed 14 Uchiha of varying ages in the field by himself. Sadai of the Stone Cloak. Hearing this Jiraiya said. Oh right, the missing ninja from Stone Dam, so that's why he didn't get thrown in the bingo book, still Tsunade, I need to make sure he's alright, can't I just have the toads reverse summon him? Hearing this the Kage's eyes winded and she cursed herself and yelled. Yes, do it now. Sighing Jiraiya gathered his chakra and cursed, but reacted reflexively when he caught a soldier pill thrown at him. He sighed and opened his mouth, but she said. You can do a jutsu without straining your injuries, just do it slowly and carefully Jiraiya. Sighing the toad sage nodded, then did his hand seals and summoned a tiny green frog, and he said. Tell the elders to summon themselves here, Lord Fukasaku and Lady Shima. Nodding, the toad disappeared and fulfilled its task as not long afterwards 2 puffs of smoke appeared and 2 familiar voices spoke. Jiraiya boy. You sure do pick the worst times to call us, we were having dinner. Said the green toad while his wife added. Yes, and now all my hard work will be cold, you foolish boy, what's got into you this time? She asked, and the toad sage sighed. Mappa, I know this is a lot to ask, but I must ask you to reverse summon Naruto here, it's important he's here, he could be crucial to everything, stopping Akatsuki beating back Stone and Cloud, and on top of this, I need to make up for failing him as a godfather. Hearing this the 2 toads who had been listening to each other nodded and then without warning both said. No. Hearing this shocked the toad sage and Tsunade, but Jiraiya asked in a yell. Why not? Sighing Pa shook his head as Shima said. Jiraiya. You want to drag him back here after how this village treated him? If Gama didn't tell us you were severely injured, I'd smack you for it. At this Fukasaku said. I'd put my cane to your head boy. But I must instead tell you this, there is a conflict of interest, Naruto has invoked the right of non-intervention, and we must respect his wishes as a summoner of the toads. Hearing this shocked the man greatly and Swand asked. Is it like the slug's own contract of clause of non-intervention? Hearing this Pa nodded and Fukasaku told them. Yes, once invoked we cannot circumvent the will of one of our summoners to another, it is how it works, we cannot force Naruto to be brought here against his will, and let me tell you Jiraiya being brought here is against his will. Pa, I know Swan made a hard choice, and I am angry that she made such a decision and executed it so poorly, but I want to make it up to him not as a ninja of the leaf, but as his sensei. Sighing the toad sage looked at his wife who coughed into her hand and said. Jiraiya, in this case we would be able to take him a single message, but that is it, so choose your words quite wisely, as if misspoken will be your last. She said as her husband added on. He is someplace you would not think to look Jiraiya-chan. We would have to tell him of your intentions Jiraiya, but I do not think the fact that you're alive would be met kindly. Naruto sees the leaf as a place that has taken every hope he's put on them and shattered them. Naruto sees the village as a place that does not appreciate, see the value in him, or even wants his presence in any longer, you throwing him away to the blood prison with no explanation, while his teammates watched place the straw on the pile that broke the camel's back. Hearing this the man sighed then said. Very well then, if I have no time I will say them now. Sighing Fukasaku said to them. You must give your words now Jiraiya, for if we leave you may never ask for this again. Hearing this Jiraiya sighed, the full weight of what this meant bore and weighed heavily upon his shoulders. However, after a single sigh, he looked up with fire in his eyes and a determination both had sorely missed seeing as he said. Very well then, like my ninja career this is a do or die situation and I will do my best not to have my only chance to connect to my godson again dying here. They are my words, the first ones to reconnect with my godson or the last I may ever get to have spoken to him from me. And so the Toad Sage began his message, and within a short time the Toad Sage departed, leaving the Saiyans to wonder just what sort of response they would get from the blonde dot. This must be what heaven feels like, I've never really been at this much peace. thought the blonde as he stood on the balcony to his quarters and sighed contentedly as he overlooked the ever-growing state of Jing. He could see the road which moved out through the various housing and made its way to the different districts. The blonde's eyes caught the sights of the docks where ships moved back and forth in their usual pattern, several guard junks that were moving with the merchant ships from Jing and its trade partners Yashiro village, as well as the land of tea, with others soon to follow. He had seen the numbers the Minister of Trade, a stone ninja, and the brother to a member of the Silver Oyster group named Taketsuchi, had brought him, and they looked good, very good. If everything goes according to my plan or Taketsuchi's projections, if things get bad, we'll still be growing more than either of us had initially expected, and from the message I've gotten from Yakumo-chan that she gave to one of my few remaining shadow clones in the elementals, they will be coming with a number of people soon as well. It's a good thing I ordered the building construction division to organize some workers for more projects and expanding. He thought as he had really failed to realize just how useful and helpful Earth Ninjutsu was in creating the land that was now making new land for the ever-expanding state to thrive on. Naruto, where are you? Hearing this, he turned and smiled, saying, over here. Sasam-chan, Raizetsu left early so you can come and talk freely. Chuckling a bit, she said to him, I think I will get dressed first, but I'm surprised she was willing to take the couch for me to sleep with you tonight. She said, and the blonde said, I know, I talked to her about this, well, about my clan, and she said she understood and needed help to resurrect her own clan. She figures that any children we all have together can take each other's clan names to boost our numbers. Especially since she says there's a likely chance we won't be the only ones in this group, though I don't think what she says is likely to happen. The blonde said as he counted himself lucky to have one great girlfriend, let alone two. However, hearing this, Asam sighed and said, you really don't know what women are willing to do for love or the possibility of a love-filled life, do you, Naruto? Hearing this, the blonde said, hey, what's that supposed to mean? Smirking, the Fuma said back to him. Oh, nothing, it's just my cousin was right, some men really are clueless to the true nature of women's hearts sometimes. Hearing this, he said, oh yeah, well, I know when I kiss you like this and this, it drives you crazy, especially when I nibble here. Said the blonde, kissing her at her neck in 3 spots, making her shiver and then moan as he nibbled on her ear a slight bit. The blonde was then shocked, but less than the first time, as he was grabbed and thrown on the bed which was to the left of the balcony. He laughed as the Fuma pounced on him and D2 began to kiss, enjoying the presence of each other. I'll love her again. Minsatri of C main office. Umeshura Mizura sighed as he looked over the reports for the ships and at the sailor in front of him, who was clearly a bit nervous. He smirked before stamping in and saying, well, everything appears to be in order. Request approved. As long as the Akagi clan agrees, you may bring these wares to the land of tea without problem. Though I do advise caution, we have not had this many ships head out at once with this many wares. I will thank you for approving the mission, it will truly help my business flourish, Lord Mizuhara. Waving the man off, he said to him, my job is to ensure that maritime trade and fleets are both protected as much as possible. The fact that it benefits not only you, but Jing is a fact. However, your people are citizens of the state, they deserve protection from the dangers of the sea as much as possible, and I will, as long as I hold this post, make sure such a thing happens as long as I can with our fleet. He said, and the trader bowed before taking leave, making the man sigh and take out a flask of water and begin to drink before letting out a loud satisfying breath, though he nearly dropped it as he heard, drinking this early, Mizuhara. Cursing, he looked at the woman who had a smirk on her face and smirked back, saying, no, but I might consider it with you here now, so what do you need, Raizetsu? Hearing this, the Kunoichi in question groaned a bit before sighing and replying, not much, one of my agents needs a lift, their boat got trashed on their mission and they needed to come and pick them up. Hearing this, the man sighed and smiled, saying, sure, one ship coming up, so you and Blondie have good time last night. Blushing a bit, the woman sighed, then said to the man, no, it was Sasam's turn last night, I bowed out for her to have the night to her new boyfriend, besides for this kind of relationship to work we need to share singularly. Hearing this, the man raised an eyebrow but said, okay, I don't know why he can use the shadow clone jutsu, so you shouldn't have to be alone and he could have twice as much fun. Said the man with a slight grin, and Raizetsu gave him a quick slap to the head. Naruto said he doesn't want to do that because he didn't want us to think he didn't care enough to give us both our time with him alone. Especially since he only wants to do it when he's heading for the city for diplomacy or other reasons. Besides, he wants to get to know us himself personally, and that sort of requires you to talk face to face. Sighing, the man said, the jutsu transfers memories though, but whatever, you're going to use it regardless, and then you won't be as snippy. Now give this to my secretary and she will send the orders to the docks where a ship will pick them up. Said Mizuhara, with Raizetsu saying back to him in a more down-to-earth tone, yes, I know, thank you, this is the first time one of my men have lost their ship, thank you for your help, and I think I'll bring up some more of the benefits of shadow clones, that way Naruto will be less reluctant and we each can have him to sleep with at night. She said as she left. The man gave slight snort and though with a smirk. So who are you, Will, and not with multiple versions of him, right? Either way the boss will be happy, they will be happy, and she won't come down here to trade barbs as often, especially when I've got all this damn paperwork. I really need to get Naruto to teach me that jutsu, it'll cut down this shit quick. Mizuhara thought as he stamped the order, got up and walked to his secretary and handed her the order, which she nodded to before pressing a button which sent a buzzer signal to a horn in the mail post's office to send someone to collect the message. Hanahagakure Forest of Death. You know, in hindsight I really should have questioned coming into this place after signing a guilt-free death waiver all those years ago. Thought Kiba Inyazuka to himself. His clan, which was made up of over 50 Inyazuka, with them the clan's numbers had totaled at around 75 after the Leaf Crush and had risen to about 90 since then. Kiba shuddered as he remembered the argument had between his mother and her brother-in-law, his father's brother, who had been adopted into the clan when both his brother and Kiba's mother had gotten engaged. And even though he was older than most Inyazukas were at his age, he was given the Ninken of an Inyazuka who died and became his partner, excelling greatly at the clan-related Ninken arts. The man had wanted to stay in the Leaf Village, and several members of the clan agreed with him, so his mother had gotten a friend of her daughter's, Tessai Tajito, to put the clan members under a genjutsu when they threatened to tell what they knew to the higher-ups, in particular the ninja elders and the Hokage. Needless to say, they had layered the genjutsu, and Tsume said that her son had ended up hit with the Jaiken during practice with his teammates and promptly both puked and shit himself when the clan was having their meeting, which was why they could not remember, and she could, because she had Hana's friend do it this way to avoid suspicion. Needless to say, the ninjas who had blacked out from the genjutsu didn't question their clan head and had gone on with their lives as usual. Being completely unaware of the defection being planned out in the near future, with the clan head and her loyal kinsman leaving with her as the Inyazuka matriarch, knew that if the clan lost their youngest members, they would be in big trouble if the war got very heated and required their skills more in the field. So for the good of her clan, she took the clause all clans had put in when joining the Leaf, that if the Leaf unreasonably threatens the livelihood of the clans via their likely extinction, the clan's head could leave the village. Though the third Hokage had tried to repeal such a law and Tobirama before him had been very against it, wanting to add a clause for memory, Hashirama was firm in his keeping of it and sealed the seal which all clans swore their loyalty on, a Juinjutsu that passed down the generations, with the clause of not revealing the Leaf secrets to their enemies, the 5 great nations. And though both Hokages reluctantly accepted, the emergence made it more of a moot point, one which Tsume Inyazuka was going to exploit. Needless to say, Kiba was glad he had not chosen the opposite choice. He did not like the idea of being thrown into a cannon fodder fight with the Jinchuriki of the 8 Tails holder, and while some of the rookies believed Naruto was far too dangerous or a time bomb, him and several others who he walked beside thought different. Yosh. Niji, Kiba-san. Soon we will be to our new home. Are you both as excited as I am to see this place? He asked, and Niji said, a bit annoyed as the other ninja made shhh sounds. Lee, perhaps you should use a bit less energy. We are trying to sneak out of the village, and given what I know, it will definitely be harder than we'd like. Especially given the fact that we have to carefully sneak out of the barrier, otherwise the barrier team will recognize something is wrong. Said the Hyuga, his head covered by a headband, one which he longed to remove to show himself for who he was completely without shame, or a headband to block his head. He sighed as he thought of his cousin Hinata and how she had refused to leave the village. She had even gone as far to call it treason, and that he was deserting the main branch, who had done so much for him, before trying to apologize to him. Flashback, Hyuga compound. I didn't mean to say that. I'm just so lost without Naruto-kun. I can't do anything without him inspiring me. He had sighed and said to her. Hinata, you're my cousin and I love you, but don't you think that maybe, just maybe, your affection for Naruto may be a crush? Have you ever tried to tell him how you feel? No, I can never tell him I am mean, Niji Nai-san. It would be a very bad idea. I will love him from afar until he is Hokage, then I can be with him when he's a strong famous ninja who will bring prestige to the clan. Hearing that had shocked the Hyuga heir's cousin greatly, and he had suspected more was at play. However, he knew the look on Hinata's face and what it meant, so he had motioned to Tessai Tajito to work his genjutsu on the heiress, who promptly fell asleep into a multitude of bad dreams. The Hyuga branch member hated to do this, but he knew his cousin was going to tell, having grown up alongside her. He knew the variations of her guilty looks and knew that one said that she had known something. She just had to tell her father, and he knew that while the man cared for his family, thanks to the Hyuga elders, he would do his duty to the village second and the clan first. Knowing this and what happened when the Hyuga elders influenced his father's decision, crying out over the Byakugan after the Cloud Ambassador had been killed, the young man did not wish to tempt fate and see what kind of reaction his uncle would have had. Which was why when the young Hyuga had finished he waited until it was time to leave to apply the seal to his head in the middle of the night with everyone sleeping and was shocked when another scroll appeared. Then after unsealing it, he had a large pile of similar seals in front of him within the bathroom sink. Niji then knew what the mysterious one who had arranged a migration from the Leaf was offering to his branch clan members and found the nearest one he knew wanted to overthrow the shackles of the Hyuga clan, his cousin Kokuro, who then began to gather every branch member, save a scant few more loyal to the main branch, and the mass unsealing had begun, and not long after the clan had come to the Forest of Death to escape. Then flashback. Hearing this, Lee sheepishly bowed then said. Sorry Niji, I did not think that through, but Yash. It is a shame Tenten and Guy Sensei would not understand, neither would the others. I had expected them to be more understanding. Hearing this, the Hyuga sighed and Kiba frowned while Akamaru growled a little. The Inyazuka then replied to his friend in a rough tone of voice detailing his frustration. What did you expect, Lee? I mean, Yumi and Niji are some of the ones Naruto's helped out a lot. I didn't forget how Naruto helped me with Akamaru when he went out of control and how good a friend he's been. I mean, I wasn't exactly the smartest in class, but Naruto tried his best to get the third Hokage of all people to help me. And he's always done right by others, but the village is selfish, man. I mean, they wanted to throw kids the same age as we were in the academy and some younger against a Jinchuriki man. You remember how we heard about Naruto having a strange red chakra? I know my mom told me about it when I asked her, stating the third Hokage made a law which after his death the council tried to repeal about. Talking about Naruto's burden, she didn't tell me outright, said I had to figure it out, but when I went to the library. Hey, don't look at me like that, I had to know. I found out the Kyuubi, the giant nine-tailed fox, and other tailed beasts have it. I was shocked, but Naruto was keeping us alive. I went back to her, and she said what did I think I knew about sealing, and the fourth was an expert in it. So I said he probably shoved the fox into Naruto's chakra coils to choke it and keep it there. Mom laughed Pia Storm, but said I was very close to being right and properly explained the basics of sealing she learned from her own Jonin sensei when it came to chakra. Hearing this, Lee said to him. Gosh. Your mother truly burns with the flames of youth. I had asked Guy Sensei, and his response was most unfortunate. He said Naruto's flames of youth burn bright but are dangerous. He spoke with great sadness and some anger when he did. I think he does not like Naruto's tenant but has few problems with him. He is indifferent, you would say. Niji sighed and added on to the statement. And Tenten is flat out nervous, scared, and sees Naruto as a potential threat because of the Akatsuki chasing him. She's always been the one to focus on the most danger. Niji said while Kiba snorted and said to them. Sounds like fear. I know her favorite uncle died in the Kyuubi attack, as well as her mother. I think she just likes Naruto as a person, but doesn't want to be his friend, you know. I think she honestly sees it as a business thing from what you say, meaning she's got no problem with the village if it says throw Naruto at someone twice his age and strength who happens to be a Jonin. The Inyazuka said, rolling his eyes, and both former members of Team Guy winced as she did say something to that effect when she wondered why the blonde struggled so much in the Chunin exams with that kind of power. Lee, hearing this, said. It is most said Tenten and Guy Sensei's flames of youth have dampened, but I do not doubt that where we go there will be youthful people for us to live with and start anew. The Taijutsu using ninja said with a nice guy smile, and Kiba laughed while Niji smiled, and the Inyazuka said. Mom's with the clan further ahead, but damn, I've got to say, Lee, I think she'd like having you as her student, maybe even an apprentice. She knows a few things about the strong fist and she could teach you about some other fighting styles she knows. Kiba added, and the bowl-haired ninja felt his happiness increase tenfold. Then a ninja ahead of them stopped the group at a clearing where several groups of ninja were already gathered. The younger ninja of the Rookie 12 noticed that. The Inyazuka clan head as well as Kurama clan head was standing talking to a branch member Niji knew to be his cousin Kaseki, with Anko Mitarashi and Iruka Yamino also with them. While many of the civilian and several Takubetsu Jonin, some Jonin and more numerous Chunin and Genin, with the most being the civilians who were a part of the groups getting ready to depart. Anko Mitarashi turned her group clearly done and said. Alright everyone. Boys and girls, we're getting ready to depart. For all the civilians, we're going to have to seal you or put you in the equivalent of a house-sized suitcase in these scrolls. There are some heaters, battery-powered ones, so you should be fine until we get to the boats, which will take about 2 hours. Once we're there, we'll release all of you and make our way to our destination. If you've got any questions, just ask one of your group leaders for the answers. We leave in a few minutes after everyone's sealed. Alright. The crowd responded positively, and the ninjas sighed as the group leaders began to pass out scrolls, and the civilians began to be laid down one at a time and sealed. Not the scrolls, it would be a bit hectic as the nervousness of being out in the forest with time burning was strong. However, the plan should have been foolproof, though Iruka felt he had to ask. Do you think all the elemental clones and shadow clones will be enough to throw off the barriers? Sighing, the Kurama clan head answered first. We can only hope Iruka-san this plan has been well thought out. Clearly whoever has offered us this chance has a very intricate way of thinking. Sumin-Yazuka responded to what he said with her own statement. If it doesn't, we'll know when the Anbu come with several Jonin and the Hokage if they figure it out. Nodding, Iruka gulped at the prospect, while the Hyuga branch leader Kakuro looked resolved and said. Then we will fight them off and make it to freedom through fighting for it. Both me and my kin are no longer caged birds, and we will not become such again after we have just received our freedom tonight. Many Hyuga cheered lightly, catching themselves before they revealed themselves, while several other ninja gave their own modest sounds of agreement. It was liberty or death in the minds of many of the ninja, as they did not want to be thrown to the wolves of stone and clouds. Best just to spitefully kill their Jinchuriki in a certain death mission looking for trouble, rather than defending and countering it. It was sentiment that the leader of these groups couldn't help both echo and respect from them. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.